Hi everybody, so this is a big update to my Siege Unit mod. Yeah, it looks different. Goes to the single player menu, it looks different there too. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. I guess the single player menu, there's really nothing really to say about this except for that I added replay viewer in the map editor. When people like me are making maps or making test maps for game analysis, I find that I constantly would have to come back to the main menu to go to the map editor or to the replay viewer, and it was just really annoying. A lot of extra clicks for no reason at all. That's why I put these two in here, and that's really all I have to say about it. And of course, change the width of some of these. The idea with me changing the width of these is there's so many buttons that I think it's best that they have different lengths, and I added some more, and in some of the languages, the text for this really would cover this entire width. So I looked at all the languages and made sure that none of them went outside of these bars, and this is what it took, the sizes for them. Okay, but anyway, I have a user manual for this, and when you go to it, I'm going to be referring to this throughout this video, so that's one thing. This is going to be a video to this playlist where this video is. This is the send bug report button. It's going to bring you to that video. It's a little bit longer than what I thought it was going to be, but the big thing is there's no more send bug report button, and this is where you're going to be sending bug reports. You're going to come down to the video comment section here. I don't feel like I need to talk about this at all. I talked about it enough in there. Since this video here, I have posted several updates on KaM Discord, but don't go there because if you see my bug report video, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, just to not bring any drama into it more than what I'm going to say, is that KaM and maybe even Ray, I don't know, but definitely the moderators, they don't want discussion about this mod on there anymore. They wanted me to start my own KaM Discord server, and I don't want to do that. I just want to keep it just on YouTube, and that's it. So if you happen to be a member in Discord, you may see my announcement. I had 3 announcement posts, of which I posted updates to this since this last video, and I apologize, I've been neglecting my YouTube audience, those who aren't KaM Discord members, but no longer. You have the latest update. I really don't plan on making any major updates like I did now, but there are several bug fixes in here, and I'm going to address the first one, major one, and that is for HD animations. This was posted about 5 weeks ago, and this is what happens when you play on HD. So I don't know if everyone knows about the HD feature. Maybe you are familiar with r15475 and you didn't even know about this, or maybe you're coming straight from the Steam version, the original game, or some patch. But if you go to options, they have this by default. I think it's unchecked, but HD movements is not going to be enough to really see it. It's kind of different movements than normal, but if you click both of them, then things are going to look different for you. If we just pay attention to the rocks that they throw, for example. Now if I turn this on, we can now compare this. You see here, very smooth. So this is what happened. It was converting them into animals. It was a mess, and just to be very brief for my programming audience, basically, res interpolation, if you trace it through the code, it comes to this, interp.dat. I had to offset every single unit starting from the wolf onward by 2. I just wanted to say that real quick, that that's a big key to successfully adding new units into this game. So yes, HD animations are now resolved. For those who had this problem, it was a bug, and I apologize about that. I didn't even test HD animations, to be honest. Next is the saves folder is now named saves. It was named saves SU. Now it's back to the default name, because in this long video here, I mentioned under the installation instructions, install a separate copy of the vanilla remake and to put these files in there, and because of that, there's no more need to have a folder that's not just named plain saves. the modding graphics folder for those who are familiar with it and noticed that it was absent in my previous versions. It was because I made this into the modding graphics folder, but now essentially we have two modding graphics folders. This one is strictly for my game files, just so that you don't get yours mixed with mine. Another big one is that for saves, when you go in here, there used to be a .rng file that would be created with these. That's actually only needed for programmers to debug, and that's not something that I need to debug. And it's a huge file, especially I got reports that it was, as he shows here, 270 megabytes. And I actually, before I even got this bug report, I wanted to disable this anyway because I knew about this file in the past that it's really not needed in save files for anything. In the previous version there was a bug, but it was in the vanilla remake, and I actually fixed this bug, but my fix wasn't good enough for them, even though it actually was a fix, that it would reset, that you would play a campaign, you would lose progress. If it wasn't the Shatter Kingdom, you would lose progress. And not that it matters anymore, but I even went out of my way to prove to them that my fix worked and everything, but the way he did it finally is actually much better than what it was, so I don't miss this at all. But for those who were members of Discord who saw my updates, they didn't experience this data loss from the campaigns, which you might have if you were only aware up to this version here, and I apologize about that. After I made that fix, I quickly changed the download link, at least for this and this. Maybe not this one, I might have kept this the same because this is a completely different version than these two, that this didn't have the siege workshop at all and it trained the siege units to the town hall. But anyway, I didn't mean to get carried away with that. The big one, multiplayer and co-op support. The major problem with this is that when you want to join a lobby, there's a delay. It takes longer for both of you to find the same exact server. Once you join, everything should be sweet now, and as far as I know from testers that I've had test things for me, they were able to play co-op maps. Before that wasn't the case. As soon as the siege weapons would fire, then the game would crash. So at this point, I'm confident to say that multiplayer should work and co-op should work. Just a delay when you want to join a lobby. I didn't hear any problems before, even before I could get it to work, that you could play with bots online, single player mode. That's no issue. So that also is okay. But anyway, that's that. Speaking of multiplayer, that's something I have in my manual that I talk about. So I guess I can bring up the manual now. As I mentioned, there's a link to it here, and I'm going to just refer to the manual that I have on my computer. When you download it, if you have a certain PDF viewer, you may be able to, like when you click on this, it's going to jump. But for the multiplayer trainer, not every single map will allow you to have this option. You see, I click on all these maps and it does, okay, you saw it come up here because this is a multiplayer map. So basically, it's going to look for maps that they have at least one advanced AI player. You can have a mixture of advanced AI and classical AI if you didn't know, because it's just not common. But as long as the map has at least one advanced AI player, and every single location, building place, whatever you want to call it, that all of these locations 1 through 8, all of them can be played by a human player. So it basically is looking for a specific multiplayer map. Let's say I come here to Maps Multiplayer and select a very popular map like Eruption, and they have, this is 6 player and then 8 player, but let's just say the 6 player. And I come here in Maps and I paste it. Then I go to the single player menu and I come up to Eruption, and now it's available. The advanced AI players are available. If you don't know about them or heard about them in the previous video, they're good fighters, and it kind of puts some tension when you're trying to fight them that the classical AI just doesn't give it. It makes it feel more lively like. They build decent, and you can select the peacetime. You can use the scroll on your mouse. You just put it here. I have a little information box here to tell you what to do. But if you would switch classical AI, it goes away because this is only an advanced AI feature where you can specify the peacetime in single player, which didn't exist before. So when you go in here, and I'm just going to save the map and fast forward the replay some. If you know the advanced AI from before at all, you would know that they would be attacking you at this point, for certain. And I do have that they do build the Siege Workshop at the same time at 53 minutes. As I mentioned in this video here, I didn't change that. But they're just going to load it in. They're not going to unleash their army until the specified peacetime. So, I mean, it works. And as I mentioned in the user manual, I gave them stockpiles of fish and wine because they suffered from starvation, and they all have a 110 surf limit. As you can see here, he's gonna stop at 110. He would have went more. They go to 160 sometimes. It just depends on the location, the map, and everything. But as I mentioned in the user manual, I did that because of traffic and to save some gold for recruits. I could have gave them stockpiles of resources of everything, but that's just not fun. But this should prevent the starvation issue from happening that they typically suffer from. It just makes the game more challenging as time goes on because it was easy. If you just wait a little bit, they'd starve to death. I hope he doesn't mind, but I got this bug report that when playing against the advanced AI, they would build so many siege workshops, and I actually put in quite a bit of effort to prevent this up through this version here, but it just didn't happen. But now it is fixed. I went even further, and he reported that it's no longer an issue. So yet another issue that I fixed. Speaking of single player and playing against the AI and all this stuff, I wanted to mention that I have a map that I'm going to provide in the attachment. It's the Newlands Mission 14. In this video here, I mentioned that AI, no matter if it's classical or advanced AI, they're not going to produce any more than 2 of each siege unit. If they have more than 2 of each, they're not going to produce any. That still applies if we're playing in multiplayer mode, as I was just showing. But if it's a single player map like this, which is the only one right now that I know of, it's just a traditional map. It kind of looks like the Shatter Kingdom Mission 18, I guess, with the mountains, and instead of crossbowmen, it's ballista. This is a map by the Dark Lord. Some people say that he didn't like siege units and he just wanted to have everything like the Shatter Kingdom, but I beg to differ when I see a map like this. They have several players of all kinds that they have siege units. So pretty exciting. If you're into siege units at all in single player, I hope that maybe people in the future make maps for this remake version that includes siege units rather than just human soldiers all the time. I don't know if you're familiar with this campaign at all. This is an old campaign that was in the original game for which you can play through the Steam version if you wanted to. But this is the only mission where the AI were given a starting town like this and they had siege workshops to produce catapults and ballistas. Just let me know how it goes if you're brave enough to play this map. Now I have 2 classical AI bug fixes. So this is not my bugs, this is the remake developers bugs, and they didn't accept either, apparently, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, but so be it. Their users are gonna suffer if they care about this at all, but this is all you have to do is just that when a bowman is firing and you have some type of unit in front of them that distracts them from firing at the bowman who triggered them to fire at them from the side like this, then when you move them away, they're just gonna sit there and you can actually attack them and kill them. If you go to KaM speedrun, which I'm a moderator of, and you go to like mission 4 and see my speedrun, this one I don't have any save reloads, and one of the reasons is it was easy to take them out when they had, even with all the bowmen they had, because of this bug.
Move forward.
You can see right here, they're just sitting there, and he's going to be able to kill them all by the time that I finish the other part of the map. And the same for mission 5 also. If I go to mission 5, right here, they get distracted by them as the decoy over here goes down south. So that right there was enough to trigger this to happen. Here you can see they did it again. And you can go to single maps and take a look at barbarians. I believe it also happens in there when I hit them with a non-ranged unit. And so in here I show that demonstration that I'm using a ranged unit against them, and I just know how to trigger this bug left and right. Here we go with a non-ranged unit. Same exact thing, as long as there's some other unit in front of them and he hits them, then they're gonna do this. So this is the fix, and I'm just gonna show one just for sake of time. But you can investigate this yourself to do the same exact thing, and you're going to see that they're going to fire. They're no longer going to sit there and act stupid. So I'm proud to say that's my own fix. KW mentioned this bug about the non-ranged units, that he lured them with close proximity. For those who've seen my speedrun videos, when you get close to them and they're staying still, you know how they follow you. Part of their group got caught here, but half of them are coming after him. They just, you know, once they pick a target, they ignore each other if someone gets into battle with a non-ranged unit. So non-ranged gets in battle with non-ranged, and they don't care. They still spread. This is crazy behavior. I mean, maybe it's more challenging for people who play a certain way, but this is how it should be, what I did here. You see, as soon as they catch, it doesn't matter. Even if they're firing at them, none of them are going to come up and do something crazy, you know? It's just like maybe you remember from r15475 if you're familiar with it. So, at least in my remake, okay, which I'm calling it now, you're not going to see this issue anymore. You're going to see this behavior. And they caught him at the end there. I wanted to show that example. They caught him at the end there because for one moment that he's dead, neither of them was in a fight. And so because of that, he went up there and started killing them. So it's very rare that something like that will happen. Otherwise, even like this, very extreme, and it's now controlled. I'm going to mention Poidobo from this point because he really helped me out and he didn't even want to be thanked. But I think he's just humble. Spectacular guy, helped me catch bugs and gave me so many ideas for what this game is today. So you really should thank him too. One of the first things that he told me about was a bug with the Siege Workshop. He could increase it as much as he wanted, but it would only show 25, and that was obviously a bug, but now it's fixed. Now it goes to 999, like all the other weapon buildings do. A more subtle thing with the Siege Workshop that he found is when the supply of iron bars is low, like he had unlimited timber, right? 65k timber, that the Siege Workshop would not produce any siege units at all. They would be given priority, obviously. So I wrote some code for the economics of this game, and I talked about it here, that at 60 minutes, for one iron smithy, if he was to be powering everybody and it was to be evenly distributed, the Siege Workshop should be given 23 bars while the rest would go to them. And this is assuming that they start from time 0, okay? This is not like the traditional build order and they start at a certain time and all that stuff. Yeah, it's here. It says 89 for 2 iron armor smithies and 23 iron bars for the Siege Workshop. So if you do the math, then you would come to that conclusion, considering that the Siege Workshop runs every 86.8 seconds. And it wasn't just the iron bars that suffered. He first mentioned that the timber suffered. It was a situation like this where it was reversed. He had not an unlimited amount, but it was a decent amount of iron bars. But he had an infinite amount of trunks and relied on 2 sawmills. 2 sawmills is not enough, right? Each sawmill can really only supply 1 weapons workshop. It's given some, but just not enough. That was the problem. It wasn't given quite enough. It needs 5, but it wasn't given enough. Even at, he said 4 hours. And only 1 siege unit at 4 hours, which was terrible. In a normal game, when people are building well, this is not going to be an issue, but it shouldn't be like this. And with this, when I talk about the Siege Workshop, I say it here that when iron bar supply is low, then you need to set the distribution wares of the iron bar receiving buildings, the iron armor smithy and the iron weapon smithies, you need to set to 1 for him to receive his fair share, and it will be his fair share. It should be distributed perfectly between them, if I did it right. And again, that's really hard to tell if you don't know the economics of this game really well and know the math on how to do that. And I can maybe cover that in another video because I would digress probably at least 5-6 minutes on that, and I don't want to do that. But that's all you have to do. Just set the distribution of wares of each of them here to 1. And that should resolve the issue if your iron bars are low. If not, then you can put them wherever you want and the Siege Workshop, and they should receive just enough. But in order to know that, then you would have to pull out a tool like this. And I don't have the Siege Workshop in here yet. That's probably something I'm going to do in the near future, but not making any promises right now because I'm kind of exhausted from KaM. I might want to take a break after this and go do another project. But I guess time will tell. But I do want to add it in here. Another Siege Workshop bug is from the map editor. Before, like now it works, but before you couldn't add or remove timber and iron bars for the Siege Workshop from the map editor, but now you can. And another thing I wanted to mention is that in the most recent remake version that this was made from, so that would be r15475, we just take a look, not even from the map editor alone, it was from either the map editor or the game. Look how many timber is in here and look how many iron bars. In this version here, we didn't have this issue, but King Dairon made some changes to the building sprites for the resources, which is precisely what we're looking at right now, so that there is no overlap and things like that, so that it doesn't look like with the metallurgist, for example. This is what he was saying, that there's a problem, and then he says it should look like this. He has some experience with adding new buildings. He has an expansion that I talked about in this video right here, the first video about this mod. Whatever he did here for the metallurgist, for the Siege Workshop now, in the latest vanilla remake version at least, you're gonna see this, that there's no more timber and things like that. And sometimes you see just the iron bars and not the timber or whatever. But I added just one line of code in here to get it back. There should be no debate about the Siege Workshop because these are separate. They're not really mixed. So it doesn't really hurt to show all 5. There's only 3 in here. As you can see, there's only 3 there, but there's all 5 timber. That's why I didn't hesitate to add code that shows everything, just to restore it the way it was up through this version here, that we didn't lose it in the most recent version of this mod. It was lost temporarily. You never saw it lost, but it was lost, but I restored it. We want it to look good. We want it to look good. This is probably the biggest one. I'm in the map editor right now, but you can click this and set a rally point if you're a map maker and save this. And when you start the game or test it with quick play, it's set, it works as expected. I talk about this in the user manual somewhat, and I'm going to pull that up now to save me a little time, but under the Siege Workshop building, this is where the siege unit comes out, right? It comes out from the left, and if there's a siege unit on any of these tiles, like if you were to come in the map editor and click on this at the bottom here and say show tiles grid and maybe flatten terrain some so that you can kind of get things in perspective. I even drew it out here. Let's say that I have a siege unit come out here and I have any kind of ranged unit, so it could be a bowman or whatever. If they're in these corners, for example, they will all link to him, or on these edges they will all link to him, but if they're anywhere outside of this, then they won't. This linking radius, as I mentioned in the user manual, is a little bit smaller than what it is for the barracks. The barracks is an 11 by 11, but this is a 7 by 7 linking radius, and it's square, not round like a defense radius, for example. This is how it is for the source code in general. But people had problem when it would come out, sometimes it wouldn't go to the destination. It would just sit there by the Siege Workshop somewhere and get lost. It would disconnect, but I fixed that problem for those who never even seen this work. Now it actually fully works. Just a lot of kinks that I had to work through to get done with this, but that really was kind of a challenge because the default code for the barracks and for the town hall assumed that there was building to the left and to the right of the opening, the door. But with the Siege Workshop, I know it's hard to see because the building, it looks like the door's coming out from the middle, but if you try to place it, you can see that the door is on the left. With that being the case, when a unit would come out, it would sometimes get pushed by the serfs here. And when that would happen, based on how the code for the rally point was, it always assumed that the building would be above him no matter how he was pushed. So for here, he has some room to be pushed left or pushed right. But here, if he's pushed left, there's no building above him. And that's what the previous code for the town hall and the barracks assumed. That is not true for the Siege Workshop. You can pretty much read what I wrote here. Nothing really new there. And how to set a rally point, which you've already seen. To remove it, just right click on the door in front of the building and that will remove it. Throughout this manual, I have scripting functions. I will mention some later, specifically to disable some fancy features that I've added in that probably several players will not like, and it's really easy to disable it. But I had to add in everything because I'm trying to please everyone with this mod, and therefore I just make everyone disable what they don't want from scripting functions. I'll go down to one briefly, like this one, that it's red. So I'll talk about this soon. Let's say I'm playing a long co-op map and I build a whole bunch of catapults. Alright, I guess you get the picture. Well, it's a pain in the butt to link all of them, right? So all you have to do, as I show on page 8 in the user manual, or currently page 8, I keep changing things all the time, but you just click on one that's in the middle, you hold down the shift key, and you click this, and it links them all together. I guess I should mention it now that you've heard the sounds, but I added sound effects. And these are actually from Service Pack 3 from here. So what I mentioned about Age of Empires, it's still good sound effects, but now we have our own sound effects that we don't have to really worry about copyright. And those are now included in the attachment. If you just go here to sounds, and then I have each in a folder, just like sound effects for other soldiers in the default location, that they each have a folder with all of their sound effects. So just for right now, I'm going to have it in the Siege Unit mods files. I think I'm just going to keep it here. I don't want to confuse y'all in future releases for nothing. Compared to the other units, as you saw just a minute ago, they don't have very many sound effects, but they were all supported. And you can substitute sounds into here, just rename these verbatim. So all caps, and just as you see here, if you want to be able to substitute new sounds in. So if you want to go get Age of Empires sounds or whatever, you can do that. You're still going to have to group them all. I could have made it group them to make it easier on you, but I don't want to baby y'all too much, I guess. I don't know. I could make that change in the future, but it will only work with single leaders though. Like here, if I hold down shift to link, it's not going to work. Okay, it's just going to go to the default link, and I of course want to link him with them. And look at this, I guess you noticed that I have disabled the eat button just like it was in the original game. And speaking of group commands, I have two other ones to show you that I mentioned in the user manual, but I'll just show them here. Let's suppose that I have a group like this, that they're mixed with hunger and all, and I want to split them. Let's say that I have a shortage of food, or I want to optimize my village food or whatever. I have a big army, not just this, okay? I have a huge army, and I want to only feed the ones that are absolutely hungry. I just click on one of the hungry ones, and I hold down shift and click the split, and every single knight that is his hunger level or less is going to be linked with him, and every unit in the group that is his hunger level or more is going to be 1/2 of the split. And it doesn't matter the unit type. I'm going to keep the scout at a decent level and make it really lopsided with the amount just to illustrate this. So link them all together.
I'm listening.
It should only split apart the hungry knights from the rest. They should all stay together, right? So I click on a hungry knight and I hold down shift and I split.
March.
Right?
Your Majesty.
It's just saving you mouse clicks, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Another hotkey is before, when you would hold down control and you would click the split, then it would split the one in the back, like this one in the back, right here off the group. If I wanted to disconnect one troop from here, let's say that these X's on both sides of these knights are a mountain, and you don't want to move any of the knights forward. You want to detach one to go forward to be a decoy. You would have to hold down this. I don't know if you know about that, but when you right click and you hold down, you can specify the direction that they face. And you can do that and change the leader's location, and the rest of them don't go anywhere. And then from that point in the vanilla remake, which this is, that I built this mod from, you just hold down Control S, and it's going to break off the last one in the group. And then you can technically take one troop from the front, and that will solve that issue. But then you have to do this to restore them back, and you still kind of suffer some because the leader is coming to the front, but it's still convenient than if you were to break them off like this, right? Like you would before, and then have to link them all back together. So it's a big help. But now it's simple. You just select, like this one here. I selected him, I hold down Control, and I can press S if I want to. That's a shortcut key for split. So Control S with him selected, and he breaks off. Him, as you can see, one from the middle, and I show these in the user manual so you won't forget. Now let's talk about the siege units themselves. As you can see, I have them on the front page. Pretty cool, right? Main page, single player. I think it's good that it kind of bounces like this, so you kind of know which menu you're in, especially if you're a single player and you use this menu a lot. But anyway, with the ballistas, I've made a couple changes, especially to their animations. When he was firing south, it would jump like this, as you see. Unexpected, just from the south direction. it would do that. As you can see now, it's all good. Another thing that I never noticed before is when he would fire, that you saw that the bolt, it would come out from over there instead of straight out like it's supposed to. Well, now it comes out correctly, so I had to readjust some offsets for the projectiles the way they come out. I didn't have any problems with the catapult. It seems like the rocks came out at a good place, but the ballista, some firing directions, it was wrong, and I corrected for the most part, but it's just going to vary a little bit, but for the most part it comes straight out where it's supposed to. Another thing I changed with the siege units is how long they take to fire for the first time. We can see here on the side how long it takes. This is just normal behavior that you're familiar with from the previous versions of the mod, but now with the latest version that is fixed. For example, yeah, they fire immediately. And the problem with this, if you were to halt them, then it would penalize you. But now when you halt them, as long as it's time to fire, as I mentioned in a previous video, it's not going to allow you to exploit when you halt. I fixed that issue and it's still fixed. But now, in addition, let's say you're in a dire situation like this where you have one vacancy and you want to do this. It's not going to penalize you like it did before. They're not going to all wait after they move before they fire again. It's just like normal ranged units, like they behave. So that's a big improvement for their behavior, I believe. Now let's take a look at the rogues. I mentioned in the user manual when I mentioned Town Hall unit changes, so I'm going to talk about this in a moment, specifically the price changes, but we're going to take a look at the rogue. This is in the latest vanilla remake version that this was made from. This is the default rogue. I have a little test map here, and you can just see the result of how many bowmen are left in these matches. There's 8 matches here, as you can see.
Your troops are under attack.
So it looks like right now, if we were to count this, it's about average about 15, I guess, right? 3 rows, if you were to average this out. Yeah, around there. We'd have to do more tests, and probably several hundreds of tests with scripts to really compare. This is still roughly about 3 rows each. So, according to this, I'm saying that I made the rogues fire a little faster than bowmen, and I have a little footnote down here to describe how often they fire compared to bowmen and crossbowmen, because I already mentioned up here how fast the siege units fire against units and buildings. Even though I said in previous videos I wanted to display all that information for you in the user manual because it could be easy to forget. And I actually decreased it too. I needed to mention that I actually decreased their firing frequency some before. I think it was 6.4 seconds was the minimum. Now it's the maximum. I'm making them fire more frequently, and in addition they are firing without any delay at all, or not much of delay to speak of. They were nerfed too much. If I made them fire too often, then it would become easy, and the 10th of the second would matter. So these numbers were very carefully chosen. 5.9 seconds is very carefully chosen here for the siege units firing frequency. But anyway, if we come here for my mod, the same test map, and we compare now that the rogues have a better chance of killing more bowmen than before. The bowmen still win because they have more armor, of course. Maybe a little bit more than 2 rows, but it's definitely not 3 anymore. And here the rogues won. Yeah, it's a clear difference.
Attack.
Notice that he swings 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then he lets go. 1, 2, 3. Now,
What is it? Let's get him.
1, 2. He releases it. So I did this. I take full credit for this. This is something that they mentioned on KaM Discord to maybe balance him out with the bowman better to give him a chance. And this is exactly what I did. I was very careful to make sure that it looks realistic. because you have to remove frames. But as you can see, it doesn't look any different than before, but it's just less animations. Yeah, see, it still jumps like that because this is HD animations. It's not perfect. Okay, so next I want to talk about the Town Hall units. We already know from this version here that I made the Warrior an Iron Armor troop, but now you notice that I dropped the price from 10 to 9, and the Barbarian I dropped the price to 7, Vagabond to 4, and we already know that I added the Militia to the Town Hall from that previous version. The reason why I dropped the prices is my friend Podrobo brought it up, and he was right. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 5. I just did this in a spreadsheet where this is the Rebel, the Militia, then the Rogue, Vagabond, Warrior. And this one would be the Warrior because I wanted to make him an Iron Armor troop. So we imagine that this is the original game where this is the Barbarian, this is the Warrior. We would want him to be more than him because now he's a real metal Barbarian. If this was the prices in my remake version and we were to multiply this by 5.4 divided by 8 multiplier, and we were to round these to the nearest integer, so that means round down, right, for this, and then round up for this, we would get these numbers here. That's all this is. This is just this round to the nearest number, but the point is these numbers here match the original game as we just saw, but the prices are weighted, like these here, the Rebel, the Rogue, and the Militia are weighted the same as they are in the vanilla remake. But here I can get away with having 4 for the Vagabond and 7 for the Barbarian, but here it has to be 9 for the Warrior, and I can show you briefly why. If I were to make that 9 and 8, then all of a sudden this would drop to 5. It would be the same price as the Barbarian, so it has to be 9. The Barbarian himself, he can be 7 or 8, and it would still be 5. So I just wanted to make them as cheap as possible, and the same with the Vagabond. If I made him a 5, it would still be a 3. But if I made him a 3, then it would drop to 2. I just wanted to make them as cheap as possible, and it doesn't conflict with the original game at all, with their prices if we were to project this linearly. But there you have it. That's my reasoning for my price change for the Town Hall units. Okay, so we talked about the Siege units. We talked about the Town Hall units, the Siege Workshop, Multiplayer Trainer, the Troop Commands. Now on to this. I didn't change anything with the red arrows on the storehouses and the barracks. Every single one of these is going to apply to both. They're going to work the same way as they always have. And I have to say that because I did make some changes, so please don't think it's redundant. I'm not trying to waste your time. So pay attention first to yellow. It has a different meaning than what it did before. I changed its meaning to mean what I originally thought it was when I started playing the newest remake versions, that it should be something that removes. It should force remove. I have this video on YouTube which describes what the yellow arrows do. So just to save me some trouble, I'll go here. So basically the yellow arrows is to tell you what not to remove. It's the complement of what you don't want to remove when you click the remove all wares from house button. It's okay, but the problem is, let's say we have a mission like this where we're giving stockpiles of stone, which happens in the Shatter Kingdom Mission 20, the Peasants Rebellion Mission 14, and this one, and my favorite map, Border of Life, for the middle location, and you name it. What if I want to build towers over here, or better yet, I want to build another storehouse right here, and I want to, just so that the tower can get refilled fast enough, to command that the stone be taken out of the starting storehouse and brought there while it's peacetime and stuff like that, so when the time comes, when the attacks come, then these towers and new towers that I build will be able to be refilled. Well, the problem is, if I want to use the storehouse, I want to store stuff in here, I can't then right click on all of these except for the stone that you want to keep all these in. You know what I'm saying? And then do this. It's not going to allow you to store because of this button here. Let's say I have a sawmill and I right click on this and I say remove all, that I don't want the timber to be removed, but I want the stone to be removed. And imagine that I right clicked on all of these. I went ahead and right clicked on them. You see, look, it's not going to store the timber because of this button here is pressed. So that's a problem with these yellow arrows for remove. So let's say that I block my barracks from receiving weapons because I have weapons in this storehouse in this test map. I want to move stone from this storehouse to this storehouse. It has no stone. You right click, and then as soon as they stop filling up the inn and other buildings, then all of a sudden start receiving stone. And it can store other things in here. This is not clicked. So that's yellow. And then cyan is one that you wouldn't expect for the most part. But I'm going to show you an application. It's going to be a few pages down. Simply means don't allow remove, but you can allow to store. So I'll get back to that one later to show you a real application of it. But here's some extra notes that you can read and some scripting functions that go with each of these. This is important here that this was already used, and the way this is named, this should be with the cyan arrow, not with the yellow that it originally was with, and these new scripting functions that I wrote should go with the yellow. And these here that are associated with the red, there's actually another set of these that you could also use, but they all look the same, so I just wanted to promote this specific EX version. I guess Ray could have named this EX at the end, and I could have named this one EX, but I don't think it matters that much. This is a request by Poidobo. It's right here. So when you click on a storehouse, no matter what in this mod, you're going to see this. Let's say that you're playing multiplayer or co-op, or you're playing single player, but you've been in the habit of doing this habitually, like because maybe you did play multiplayer in the past. Right? Block these, right? Timber we might want, but let's say we, just basic stuff, right? And maybe not the weapons just yet, but let's say we want to save this. Then we come here and we just say load. And you can go to another map. I could go to Eruption if I wanted to, and I added some stuff for testing, so ignore this, but I can just say load, and it loads it in. Alright, next, the inn. So this one's self-explanatory. Let's say that I cheat and I have an inn in Eruption and I don't want, let's see what they want to store, sausages. So I just block sausages in both. Then they're going to abandon storing the sausages as expected, deliver everything else. I don't have a right click enabled, it's just left click to not store. It's not like the storehouse items that you can have 3 different arrows, okay? So, and this is the first feature which I have an action script procedure that you can use. It's just, in other words, you just copy this one line and you go to on mission start and then edit it. So if I go to the maps folder and go to Eruption, this is how you do it. Just right click on the script file, and I have Notepad++. You can just come in here, and if there's no script, which there probably won't be for Eruption unless people want to customize it, that's all you need to do. That, and then just copy this line in with the semicolon at the end, of course. And then you just save it. Be sure to save it once you do. So I'll try to reload this map, and let's see if we can block food items or not. I click, nothing happens. Okay. This is, like I said, this is the first of such actions which you can use to disable a feature, and right below is to disable retiring hungry units. Okay, so let's say that we start a map and we have a unit that's hungry.
At your command.
Right now we can't, because of the latest remake version, you can't retire him. He has to be able to come out of his house to eat. Then you can retire him with this new feature. So now, before, even with the latest vanilla remake version, you couldn't retire him when he's hungry, but now we can, right? So you can disable this feature the same way as the other one, just by putting it in on mission start. Just copying this with the semicolon and pasting it in there and saving it. So I'm not gonna repeat that again. All these red ones you see, except for the red here, otherwise it's every single action line of code is for that purpose. Okay, so this is a cool one. Set a schoolhouse to train forever. The most common might be recruits. You just right click while you hold down control, and then whatever unit you want to train forever is going to stay there. And to get it started, you have to just set him to train, or any unit to train. It doesn't have to be him, and it will go forever until you click this. Like, canceling is not going to work. You can't cancel, but you can click this, then it'll cancel it, okay? And there's an action to disable that feature. And I have to have this in a script because the settings that you have from the options menu, from what I can tell, when you come here, these options are personalized. It is not something that's going to be enforced on everybody, but script actions will. So that's why I'm using scripts to disable features. So for this one, when you right click on this with control, nothing will happen when it's disabled, for example. This is another one. This is something that there are scripts for, but the difference between this and scripts, well, you'll see. Alright, so let's say that they're storing these shields inside of here. I click this, then they come out from the top. But look, when I X out, I only lost that one from starvation. So the serfs that get killed in order to come out from the back door don't count towards units lost. But another one, of course, is the town hall, the market, the inn, the storehouse, and the barracks. They all have this button that you can turn on and off. So it makes it easy, and it's not a script to slow down the map at all. When you want to use this button, only if a road is above it, that it's connected from the tile that's in line with the door. So for example, if I load this one here, and I already switched this that it comes up to the top, right? They're supposed to come out the door. They're not. They're not going to come out the door unless you build a road. And it can go to either side, it doesn't matter. Once you do, then they primarily want to come out where the laborer is, but they're not going to come out because he's there. But if I move him, then they come out directly above like they're supposed to. But another thing is, if I move my axe fighters over here to block all of these tiles above, then they're just going to come out. As you saw, they're going to come out from the bottom like normal when they can't from the top. So they will only come out from the top when they can. The game is only going to check these three tiles, the one directly above the door and one to the left and one to the right. In this case, which will probably never happen, but let's just say like you build this by a mountain or something and you're worrying about the behavior if it's going to hinder it in any way. Well, let's say that I want to remove these axes and they're going to be put in the storehouse. And let me turn it on so they come up from the top. Now they're going to come out where they can of the three. And if I do the same thing but I remove that rock, then they can come out from the left or right side. So I have a random number generator that they're going to come out from the left and right based on randomness. This feature can be disabled just like the other ones with this. Now this is the big one. This has to deal with the cyan arrows. This is just a map where wooden shields are going to be produced. I want to build a market. Because when I click on this barracks, there's nothing here, but there will be something here when you build a market, step 1. And I restarted this because I didn't have stone. As I finish the market, then all of a sudden this appears. So let's say that, and this was a proposal by Smirik, he was asking about wooden shields, that is there a way to make it so that 80% of wooden shields get traded in the market for something. So let's just say that we want to trade it for coal that is 1-to-1, so that we can easily see, because there's no coal in here, how much was traded, and we can just set it to 999. Just, it doesn't matter how much as long as it's enough. And let's say that we want to set this to make 25 and the other ones to 25. Just two others besides these two. Looks like I need to go one more for him. And in here I just click this and it's already selected. You could select any one of these, and when you go to another barracks it's going to work the same way. Like when you click a school and you change the unit and you go to another school, it's the same exact thing. I made it the same way. So you click on this and then you just have to change the percentage. Let's say that I want it. It tells you here if you hover over it, it's how much. And let me set it right now because I keep talking. But I want 80% of the wooden shields to be for trades, and the rest of it come to the barracks. So since I have 100 set, how many do you think should be in the barracks by the end of the day? So it's 20 and 80, just as I said, and it's precise. It can be any percentage. You just can put your mouse here and use the scroll to change it to whatever you want, or right click. It's just a normal slider, just like with any other weapon building. Right, but this was his idea. Probably in long games it might be good to have a distribution of wares. That's what I'm calling this for the market in barracks. Just for warfare wares. I also have this load and save here. This is also for, which I didn't include in the user manual by the way, but this load and save is just for this, that if you set to different percentages and whether they're on or off, all this, it saves every single aspect of this. Like for this one, if I want to turn this off, that everything goes to the market, then you just click that and then it's going to just resume like normal. But this is a big one though, because this affects the economy. This actually makes the building distances for the barracks not matter at all. It doesn't matter if you have two barracks, each one is going to get an equal amount even if one barracks is closer to a weapon building than another. So it's very important that if y'all don't want to use this feature in a game, that you come here and use this in a script to disable it, because it's going to affect the economy. But if you want to use it, then it has to be this way in order for the market to get exactly the amount that you specify from the barracks here. Okay, next section. Let's say that magically I have a school that I can retire 2 units and then destroy 1 building, and then I can first save it and then quit out of this game. This is something new. I mean, it is new, but it's only new to the latest remake version, and I actually modified the game stats menu as you see here for the KaM Remake developer Ray. He used my code, made a few modifications to it, but I kind of pushed it, and he wrote citizens dismissed instead of units dismissed. Just for English and for Polish, it's special translations that it's going to say units dismissed and not citizens, because that's just how this game stats menu has always been. But if you go to the multiplayer menu and look at its statistics, it's going to say citizens just because the rest of them say citizens here. And I fast forwarded some so that we can see the units dismissed, and I come here and it says citizens dismissed and buildings demolished. So this is something that I added in also, because I added in this to the menus and I showed Ray how to do that. Well, he could do it, but probably saved him some time if nothing else. But I also afterwards, which he didn't do because I didn't bring it up, and maybe he wouldn't want to do it, but it just makes sense to keep everything lined up. There's 5 items listed here instead of 6, so it doesn't look good if you have citizens dismissed, which is like killing them, self-destruct. You can have self-building destruct too. It makes sense. And I've of course added it here, buildings demolished. But speaking of units retired and all, I want to show you something else. When you lose a unit to friendly fire, so your arrows kill your own units, it says units lost because you did lose one, but before it would say units defeated, but it doesn't say it anymore, at least in my mod. Not in the current vanilla remake version. It's still not like that. I provided code to change that, but he didn't add it in, apparently. Alright, this is a bug fix, I guess. Maybe some people don't consider it a bug because it's just not going to happen in a normal map. Let's say that I have all the weapons delivered to this barracks, but I want to remove it for some reason. This is in the vanilla remake. I do that to remove and nothing's going to happen. They should remove the weapon from here and go to the storehouse. But what it wants to do is deliver these weapons to another barracks because I have another barracks. So if I were to destroy these barracks and look back here, then all of a sudden they say, okay, it's safe now because there's no other barracks to deliver the weapons to go to the storehouse. If we do the exact same thing again in my mod, I want to remove this, and I can just do this, I guess. It doesn't really hurt anything. But they're going to deliver to the storehouse because it's the only building connected and I have a barracks built. So that's fixed. It's a little fix that I made. Nobody knows about it until now. But of course we don't have to press this button to remove them. I can just right click on it now because the yellow arrow has a different meaning. And they can remove it just by me doing that. So I don't really know how often this can happen or if they consider it a bug or not. But there you go. Lastly, the last page of the manual. This is for map makers and for scripters who write advanced scripts for maps. It might be good to know when one of these type of errors are outputted to the log file. I have this so that it's going to tell you the specific game time in ticks and also in clock time on when it was logged to the log file. Goes by game time. Real time, as in the date and time column, it's gone, and there's really no need for it when you have these that I added here. The current time, this is a time serial, so this is going to be a decimal, like you can see your message A and message B. They're decimals, but they actually represent time. So if you're a programmer or maybe dealt with Microsoft Excel, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure other people have seen this at this point in their lives by some other means, if not that. So all you have to do is, if you want to benchmark a script or a scripting procedure, whatever, in real time, you just make a start time using this. And then when it's done, you use this and then just use this to find the difference between the start and the finish time. And it will give you the difference in seconds. I have two events here. This is when the tree has fallen and he's gotten the tree. Because there's a moment when the tree begins to fall. So that would be called on tree fall. But this is on woodcutter tree fall, saying that it's when he actually grabs the trunk and is about to start walking to his hut. And then farmer cut corn, similar idea. And in these, as I just say here, it might be useful to know which laborer was assigned to any of the tasks when he places any kind of plan. This could be used for if you're scripting the AI and you want to micromanage the laborers and maybe use unit retire to make them cancel from a job if they have a certain hunger level that they're not hungry but they will be soon, and you want to get another laborer to do it or whatever. You now have access to the laborer on his way to dig the field before he actually digs the field, or let's say digs a road that he'll be stuck. One honorable mention of a bug fix that was made from the vanilla remake version that I built my first mod from, and all versions up until this point now, is there was a bug with the town hall. Sato made this test map so we can observe it in that older vanilla remake version. Right here. Right, you see that's an issue. King Dairon made a fix for this. I mentioned him earlier that he made a fix for something else. I made a fix for it too, but it was just, there was something wrong with it. They would occasionally do something like this, but it was very rare. One of them would change his mind and go back to the storehouse and deliver it back, but they wouldn't be hopping in and out like this like they are now. So it was a big improvement, but it wasn't as clean as his fix was, which we can see now. They're not doing that anymore. It's as it should be. And so because I made this update from the latest vanilla remake version, it includes that fix also. Some people who encountered the town hall bug, they thought it was my bug. It wasn't my bug. I just changed the price of the warrior to 10 in that version. Now it's 9. As I mentioned earlier, I lowered it to 9. But if it wasn't 8, then you couldn't see the bug. But it also showed up with default prices also. So even though I said that, it still would show up on occasion at least. So there you have it. 50 changes at least that I made to the previous remake versions that I released on YouTube up to this one. Overall, I'd say that some of these changes I definitely would not have thought of myself. Quadobo really helped me with that, and I also had help from a few other people. Had a few people give me some bug reports. That was very helpful, especially for multiplayer and co-op, something that I can't test alone, obviously. But some of the changes I made were changes that I've been wanting to make for a long time, like those scripting functions that I touched on last, and some common sense changes like this one, something that bothered me who does speed runs and how inconvenient it can be even with all the help with the default Control S. Also, of course, changing the meaning of the yellow arrow. That was very much needed. But anyway, thank you for watching, and please don't forget, we're not allowed to discuss this mod on KaM Remake Discord. This has got to be between us here on YouTube, okay? I specifically made this bug report video that if you have bug reports, even if it turns out to not be my bugs, but the vanilla remakes bugs which I built my mod from, if you discovered it through my mod, it's best still to report it on this video and not on KaM Remake Discord, because they're not going to take it that way. If for some reason in the future you cannot contact me and this is the case, then just simply try to replicate the bug on whatever vanilla remake version they have released so that they will know and believe that it's their responsibility. That's the best I can tell you. and it's what I'll ask you to do should I not be able to fix the bug, but I know it's not mine. Are we cool? And have a nice day.